Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is David Brooks, the Cadillac Counselor, and just reaching out to you today to kind of talk about mental health. I've been getting a lot of questions about mental health. What does mental health look like? How do we respond to mental health, especially during a time of the COVID? I even have a question that one of the people on Cadillac Counselor had posed to me, so I'll answer that question at a later point in the taping today. So just kind of wanted to introduce to you a young lady named Melissa. She has had a history of mental health, and she kind of wanted to come on the show today to talk about what does mental health look like but how she deals with it in her life. So I will step out of the way for a second and allow her to talk about who she is and what does mental health mean to her. So how are you doing today?
I am fabulous. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I see you're outside basking in the sun.
Yes. Sun is important for mental health.
Yeah, getting you some vitamin D. You know, we always need a little bit of vitamin D. So who are you? If I had to ask you, who are you? How would you answer that question?
Who am I? Well, that's a good question. And it's a question you asked me probably the first time I met you. And I'm not sure I knew the answer then in entirety, but I can tell you who I am right now.
Okay.
So my name is Melissa. I was born and raised in Frederick County. I've lived here the majority of my life. Went to school here, graduated, went to college in West Virginia for a couple of years, came back, got a degree, working on a second degree. So I'm a college student. I'm a wife. I've been married 9 years. I've got 2 kids, so I'm a mom. I've got God, so that's really important. So I'm a Christ follower. So you could also say it's really about how you choose to define yourself, I think, and that's something that's really important as your mental health changes. Depending on what state you're in might depend on how you answer that question, right? If you had asked me a few weeks ago, I would have told you I'm depressed and I'm angry and I'm sad. And that would have been how I defined myself in that moment. Today, I'm not. Today, I'm happy, and life is good, and I can't complain. So I think a lot of it has to do with how you objectively look at things in your life.
So, I mean, from saying that, if I would have asked you a couple of weeks ago, you would have been depressed, and now you're feeling good. What happened? How did you get to that point? What did it do it by itself, or did you have to do something?
No, it didn't do it by itself, for sure. So I've struggled with mental health issues for the better part of, let's see, if I'm going to be 32, so probably the better part of like 15, 16 years. Okay. Maybe longer, but that's probably about the time I recognized it. And for a long time, I didn't deal with it at all. I chose the opposite, right? I ran from it. And so for a long time, I was that depressed, sad, dark, angry, didn't care about anyone, anything type of person. Even though that's not really who I was, but that's how I felt, right? So a few weeks ago, I talked to my doctor and I said, I'm just not feeling right, I think I'm gonna ask for some help. And so they gave me some medication to try, and it made me absolutely crazy. I have never felt suicidal in my life, but I did in that moment. And it was terrifying, but I was super, super depressed. And in that case, it wasn't self-inflicted, right? It was the medication that did it. But at that time, and as you know, I couldn't tell the difference. I believed that's what my brain was telling me, right? That's who I was then. And so it didn't do it by itself. So that's how we got there. But how we got out is probably more important. And how we got out was, I came to see you and you said, you need to break the cycle. You said, you can't keep thinking the same thought and expecting a different outcome, right?
Yeah.
And that is probably the most important thing that clicked. You said you need to learn how to just be, because it's something I've never known how to do my entire life. I am the busiest person. When I tell you I'm a wife, a mom, I work full time, I go to school. I also coach my daughter's basketball team. I'm busy, right? That doesn't mean that's a good thing, always. It can be. But now that we've had this COVID, I've slowed down, right? Everybody has. There is no basketball to coach. There is no school drop-off. There is no driving to work, although I work from home anyway. There is a lack of routine. So a lot of people's worlds are turned upside down by all of those things. So whether it's medication that did it, whether it's the COVID that did it, whether it's addiction or whatever, it doesn't matter what turned your life upside down. What matters is how you're going to climb out of the hole, right? And so the most important thing is I have a support system. Besides you, I have people around me who care about me, who are willing to listen over and over, because I talk a lot. and I'm really thankful for that. But something else we talked about that got me out of that was I prayed a lot. I prayed every day. I prayed all the time. I would take walks. It would be 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, man, I got to go take a walk. And it would be 10 o'clock, and I'm like, how is it only 10 o'clock? Man, I'm going to take another walk. And I'd be going, Jesus, I'll tell you something. I don't know how I'm going to get through this day. My brain will not be quiet. I can't calm down. I'm anxious. And so I found other things to focus on. And that's really what made all the difference for me, is learning how to slow down and finding other things to focus on. I picked up a new hobby as suggested. So I learned how to meditate.
Okay.
And I'm not great at it, but it helps.
And so
that's definitely something I recommend.
I was whenever we talk about mental health and we talk about focusing, there's a difference between clinical depression and there's underlying depression. I mean, in order to hit clinical depression, there's criteria that you have to hit, like losing sleep, appetite, changes. I mean, there's a couple criteria, but sometimes we get into those things where we start to have that lull, where we just kind of dip a little bit. It feels like our dopamine, our serotonin, those our neurotransmitter is just not sparking the way it's supposed to be. So when we get those, a lot of times going out, just getting out and exerting some energy. I tell a lot of people that sometimes we just have to get that burst so that we can get our heart rate up, get our breathing, because I'll tell everybody, breathing is a major aspect of mental health. So like whenever you wake up in the morning, sometimes it's good just to take some deep breaths, like 30 deep breaths. And people might say, I don't have time to take 30 deep breaths, but I promise you have time for it if you put it in place. And then you start to kind of notice that your brain is a little bit more livelier. But there's a lot of aspects. You ought to do some research on just breathing, especially in the morning time. So let me ask this question to you. So you said you had mental health. Have you ever had addiction issues?
Oh yeah, sure. Let's say at the age of 16, I learned really well that if you drank a lot, that you didn't feel feelings. Okay. And no one ever taught me how to deal with those feelings, right? So I found my own way, and it's not the right way, that's for certain. And that went off and on for years. For years. Let's see, I don't know, the better part of 12 years.
How did you get out of that? How did you get out of it? How did you get out of that world, that mindset?
I made a conscious choice that I didn't want to do that anymore. Probably my favorite story to tell. I went to a friend's house, and we were having a cookout, and I was just having a couple beers, not binge drinking, nothing was wrong. It was a normal day. It was fine. And at a time when I didn't really drink very often. So I had slowed down quite a bit. I'm getting a headache, like basically a hangover while you're awake, because normally I drink in the evening and then you go to bed, right? Yeah. So I didn't feel this most of the time. And I said, I'm tired of this. And it wasn't the addiction that I was tired of, per se. It was tired of living my life with a belief system and thinking that I had to be unhappy. I wasn't unhappy all the time, but I didn't know how to just be. And I didn't know who I was, really. And by this time, I was married and I had a child. So if you get the opportunity to figure that out before you do those things, I highly recommend it. But I'm really thankful that I had both of them, because if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't be here today.
So let me ask you this, because you said something about belief systems. How does belief systems play out in your life right now?
Oh my gosh. Since I learned about it, I see them everywhere, and it makes things sometimes easy and sometimes difficult, because I don't know all the answers on how to change those. But if you can identify where the belief system comes from, like let's say I believe that life should be easy and require no effort, right? This is currently my 8-year-old's belief system.
Okay.
That's a tough one to deal with, because it's not my belief system. I don't know what's the right way to change that belief system. I don't know. That's part of why I come to see you. So that you can help me figure these things out. But it's amazing, because I've been to many a counselor, and I've never had anybody ask me what my belief system is, or how did I get where I was.
Explain to people what belief systems are and what your belief systems are, and how did they change?
Well, I thought I had one belief system, and you told me I was wrong. So I think we have more than one, and I think they change over time. But to answer your question, so a belief system is kind of like, it's what we believe and how we use that, what we believe to be true, and then how we use that truth to kind of navigate our life, I think, is the best way that I can answer that. So I think that, so I thought my belief system growing up was always, I have to be perfect and perfect as possible. And I really thought that was true when I read the book, Willpower is Not Enough. There's a plug for that. Everybody should read this book, because it tells you all about the belief systems. That it's not possible to be perfect, but I was always raised that way, right? Grades in school, whatever you tried, you had to be the best, you had to do the best, you had to try your hardest, whatever. And so now I believe my belief system is that I have control. No, you don't. No, you don't. Let me just tell you. You have little control over most things. There's some stuff that you can do something about, but like day-to-day happenings, other people, situations, you control how you react, you control how you behave, you control what you put in your body. Sure, you can control those things. But if you believe in God, right, I think that makes a bigger difference too. He has control. My life's basically planned out. He already knows. It's just whether or not I make the right decisions or follow the right path that I'm supposed to follow. Listen to him to figure out what it is you're supposed to be doing and who you're supposed to be, right? We don't really have control, and that's something that I never would have learned if I hadn't started talking about belief systems with you.
So,
because no counselor has ever told me. The problem is that I'm trying to control my whole life.
So whenever you think about belief systems and think about mental health, how is things happening, especially with the COVID? How do you think people's belief systems are affecting like depression, anxieties, and things of that nature?
Well, definitely, if you're like me and you believe that you can control things, you are going nuts right now, because you don't know what to do. There's nothing you can do. There's no end in sight. There's no true answer. They don't have a vaccine. They don't have a reopening date for schools. They don't have you name it. There's no certainty. And when you take away that certainty from somebody and the routine from somebody who really needs to have that control over things in their life, it's really disruptive until you figure out a way to deal with how to control what you can control and to let everything else go, you're going to have a really hard time.
Yeah. Well, hey, this is Melissa, and Melissa has she's been around the mental health field for a while, just being around it, being in different therapies, and I just wanted you guys just to see some of the mental health stuff that's going on in our community, so that if you have if you notice that you're starting to have some of those mental health issues, I really want you guys to reach out to someone, because people are doing telehealth. They're able to call you. And so, Melissa, what would you say to anybody that's out there struggling with mental health?
This is going to sound very corny and cheesy, but I posted something on my Facebook today about it, and it's about self-care, which I believe is important. And you can tell me you don't have time, and I'm going to tell you, I go to school, I'm a mom, I work full-time, and I coach teams, and I have time. You make time for what's a priority to you, and people need to make their mental health a priority. So, that being said, self-care is total, it's the whole picture. It's not just, I'm going to take a walk today. It might just be that. You might only be able to fit in 30 minutes to go take a walk by yourself, or 10 minutes, or 5 minutes, or whatever works. You might only be able to fit in the 30 breaths you talked about this morning. You know what I mean? But you need to figure out, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's physical, it's what you're putting in your body. All of that is how you care for yourself. Self-care is not just, I'm going to go take a bubble bath and read a book. It's mental, it's physical, it's what you eat, it's what you breathe. You know what I mean? So my advice is to get involved in something. If you're sitting at home and you don't have anything to do, get a new hobby. I got a bicycle. I'm not sure how much I love it, but it's good for my physical health, and it's good for my mental health. So now I take bike rides. Something I never did before, something I didn't make time for, something I didn't want to make time for, really, to be honest. But I can't go to the gym, so I found a new way to deal with that. You can find a way. That's what I want everybody to know. Don't make it an excuse. You can find a way to make things better for yourself. And if you don't know how, reach out to somebody and ask them what they're doing. Reach out to me. Reach out to, the Cadillac Counselor here. Everybody has ideas of what you can do and what they're doing to improve things. I talked to you last night. You said you're taking walks now. That's awesome. But it's really good for you, it's good for your family, and it's good for your mental health.
I just wanted you guys to meet Melissa and just kind of hear her story about how her life has evolved and her belief system, and just kind of what she thinks about the corona in today's society and what we're going through, and especially the mental health hang-ups that we have to deal with. So before I go, I wanted to answer the question that was posed to me through on Facebook. Someone asked me, what are some things that people can do to prepare for October and on, because they were saying that this corona virus, the COVID-19, is possibly going to reinvent itself by the next flu season, and it's probably going to place us into quarantine, put us into a quarantine again. So some of the things that we can do right now to prepare for this, because we see we see America starting to open up. So this is the things that I would tell you to do. Make sure that you have things in your house that will help you cope with boredom. If you have mental health or you have substance use issues, contact somebody. Start building that relationship, that rapport with a therapist. Whenever we're back into quarantine, if we have to go back into it again, you're able to have some things in place, and really kind of beef up your network, beef up the connections that you have. Really start to have people that are are in your life that will be able to speak life into you, give you suggestions, and make sure that you're accountable. I think that's one of the main things that we need to focus on if we have to go back into a quarantine. Not about all the food, not about all the toilet paper, but create ways that we can cope at home. So if you need DVDs or Netflix, whatever it is that you're going to use, even workout stuff at the house, all those kinds of things we can start to prepare for, so that we're ready for it if it comes back again. So that's to you, Miss Sweeney. I hope that answered your question, and if not, resubmit and I will try to give a better answer. Okay. Again, it was the Cadillac Counselor, day 39, and we're just having fun, and I thank you for continuing to be a part of the Cadillac Counselor. All right, take it easy.